Greetings, everyone. Amir Ziv here. Very excited to talk about and demo for you this incredible rig I have going on here that was developed over the past year for the purposes of controlling and modulating the sounds and functionality of the Moog DFAM synthesizer. DFAM stands for Drummer from Another Mother. We'll talk about each of these components in more detail. The various components are the Moog DFAM, Sonoclast's MIDI CV drumming friend and MAF-D, bop pads by Keith McMillen Instruments, Triple Espresso by Avi Ziv, Bome Box by Bome Software, and expression pedals by Moog. The system was designed for drum set players and other performers to be able to remotely manipulate the DFAM in live playing applications, and is basically divided into two ways of making that happen. Drum triggers are used to control the sequencer, and expression pedals are used to modulate the synthesizer's sounds. So about a year ago, I ran into my good buddy Adam Holzman, longtime collaborator in my band Droid. Adam is an incredible synth player, an amazing pianist. If you never heard about him, check him out. His own band, Brave New World, past work with jazz legend Miles Davis, current, more recent work with Steven Wilson Band, etc. Adam is a Moog artist, and he let me know about a new piece of gear that he got known as the DFAM. What the DFAM is basically, it is an all-analog, semi-modular synthesizer and a basic 8-step sequencer that runs chronologically, step 1 through 8. Now, when I checked it out, I was completely floored by a bunch of things. First and foremost, the sound. Moog produces just the creme de la creme of analog synthesizer circuitry. And the dynamic range of this machine is just enormous. There's a 10-octave range on every parameter, which means just by the slightest touch, you're already manipulating, shifting, modulating the sounds. It's a very basic machine in the sense that because it's all analog, there's no digital components whatsoever. There's no MIDI. There's no presets. There's no save function. There's even no reset of the sequencer back to step 1 in case you go out of sync or you just want the loop to start whenever you want it to start back on step 1. The semi-modular portion allows you to reroute the circuitry in a whole bunch of ways. It has outputs and inputs for almost all of the parameters in the synthesizer. So we started brainstorming about how it might be possible to devise a system that could control the DFAM remotely and what functions would be important to have included in there. And what I basically wanted initially was to be able to start and stop the sequencer, to be able to have a tap tempo function so that the tempo that it would run would be at any desired tempo at any time, and to have a reset function so that if you get out of sync or if you just want to reset it for whatever purpose, you can do that instantaneously. So I started researching the topic and found a company by the name of Sonoclast, which produce a product known as MAF-D, MIDI adapter for DFAM, which enables a DFAM user to sync it to your DAW or have an electronic drum kit trigger the sounds, or a MIDI keyboards trigger the sounds. And I contacted Sonoclast, spoke to its founder, Kevin Chang, ran by him my ideas. And Kevin was very enthusiastic and positive about all of the ideas, and had a feeling that it would be possible to make this work, and came up essentially with a new product for Sonoclast known as the MIDI CV Drumming Friend and MAFD. Now, this device has two modes. It has the MAFD mode, which I just described, and it has the Drumming Friend mode, which I'm using in my particular application, which allows for all the functionality that I just described, plus a lot more that you will see. Incidentally, all of the products that I'll be talking about today have a lot more functionality than what I'll be talking about. But I'm just going to go over my particular aspects of how I use it. Okay, so we need some triggers to make all of this work, and there's a lot of different triggers out there. The ones I ended up choosing is this incredible product by Keith McMillen Instruments called the Bop Pad. And the Bop Pad does not come with any sounds inside it. It's basically a very sensitive MIDI triggering device, and it's divided into 4 quadrants. And each quadrant can be further divided into 6 subzones to assign MIDI notes to each one of those. However, I'm not using that in my application. I'm just using each quadrant as a standalone trigger. Now, I will demo for you how all of this works. So, in this quadrant right here, we have a run stop. So basically, I will be able to start the sequencer and stop the sequencer whenever I want, and it goes like this. Very simple, and here it is again. Now you'll notice that when I started it again, it continued the sequence from the next step. Now, our next quadrant is a reset. So the reset will take us to step 1 of the 1 through 8 sequence. Either when it's not working, if I click it and I hit run again, it starts at the beginning, or while it's running, it'll reset it to 1 as well. Okay, so run, stop, reset. Now, the next quadrant is an additional feature that Kevin added, which is absolutely fantastic. We call it alt sequence. And Sonoclast's Drumming Friend and MAFD has a web editor that you go into, and you can program customizable sequences, up to 10 sequences, each sequence up to 64 steps long. And what this enables you to do is to have your sequences go in any order that you want. So you can repeat steps in any order up to 64 steps. And it then toggles. So I'll show you exactly how it's toggling from sequence to sequence. It stores the sequences. And we also added another unique feature, which is called Step 0. And what Step 0 does is it basically elongates the previous step by the duration of 1 step. So essentially a tie. So right now I have 7 sequences that I programmed, and I'll run through those so you can see how it's changing sequences. So we hit reset, and run will start the sequencer on step 1. and alt sequence will start the first customizable sequence. If I hit it again, it'll go to the next sequence. If I hit it again, it'll go to the third sequence. Fourth sequence. Fifth sequence. The sixth sequence is a 5-step sequence. And the seventh sequence is 18 steps long. Or you can think about it in 9. Okay, so then over here, our fourth quadrant on this first pad is set to another function, which is a reset just for the alt sequences. So when you're in alt sequence, if I want to go back to the original 1 through 8 sequence, I can do that by going to the normal reset. So we'll be on alt sequence and go back to standard 1 through 8 sequence. Back to alt sequence, reset it. So reset and stays in alt sequence, or reset to take you back to the original sequence. Okay, now the next pad, on the first quadrant, we have our tap tempo. So Kevin offers a whole bunch of variety of tap tempo options. I'm using 3 different types. Okay, the first tap tempo option is set to a ratio of 4 steps per tap, and it's set to start on the 5th tap. So if you're in a meter of 4/4, if you start on the downbeat, the sequence will start on the next downbeat and run as 16th notes to a quarter note, so to speak. So we're resetting it, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, bam. Now, when it's stopped, I can change the tempo with the tap tempos, or while it's going, I can go to a different tempo. That's tap tempo number 1. Tap tempo number 2 is set to a ratio of 1:1. Whatever rate I'm tapping, that's how the sequencer is moving. And that's going to start after 3 taps, or on the 3rd tap. So I can go 1, 2. Okay. The 3rd tap tempo is set to a very fast rate of 16 steps per hit, and it also starts on the 3rd tap. And the DFAM tempo range is enormous, so it goes basically from 10 BPMs to 10,000 BPMs. So at 10,000 BPMs, we're reaching audio rate. And if I use my drumming skills and I create a buzz, you can imagine the 3 taps in the buzz are happening at an incredibly fast rate, and each one of those will have the sequencer running at 16 steps, and it'll take us into audio rate. All right. The 4th quadrant is another function that Sonoclast added in here, which is basically to run the sequencer in random fashion. So we're going to reset, and I'll show you how that sounds. Cool. So this is continuously going in a random, endless cycle. Not cycle, really, but just random. There is yet a second alt random, which is very cool. And what it is it selects 8 steps randomly and then repeats it 32 times before moving on to the next set of randomly chosen 8 steps and repeating it 32 times again. So when you are in this mode and you hit the reset on the first pad, you can create thematic motions at a slow tempo because it will take 32 times for it to cycle to the next one. And I'll show you how this goes. So right now we're in random. As I hit it again, it'll toggle to the alt random. So you can hear the 8-step random sequence looping for 32 times. But if I go over here to reset, it'll go to the next 8 random. If I hit random again, it'll toggle back to the first all random. Okay, now on the 8 steps random times 32, if we get that going at audio rate, we are creating an effect of polyphony. Now, it's not a true polyphony because the steps are still moving one after the other, but it's happening at such a fast rate that it'll sound like chordal movement at a pulse rate that is discernible to the ear. And then you can do yet further thematic material with this. Check it out. So put it on alt random, and we're going to bring it into audio rate. Okay, so let's say that this is our tempo and we're playing along. We want to go into triplets. Well, and there you have it. You can change your phrasing. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Now, the way that the bop pads are connected is they're going through USB lines. They're powered via USB, and the USB lines are going into a powered USB hub, which gives them power, and also takes both USB cables, both pads, and sends that signal to this device right here, which is the Bome box made by Bome Software, which is a MIDI hub. So this MIDI hub allows us to have multiple MIDI controllers be used simultaneously. For modulating the DFAM sounds in real time, we're using a device called the Triple Espresso, engineered and produced by Avi Ziv. The Triple Espresso is a 3-channel expression pedal CV interface. It offers the semi-modular or modular synthesizer user with foot-controlled CV generation or CV processing. It supports up to 3 expression pedals. It has per-channel selection of internal CV generation or processing of external CV, per-channel voltage range control, CV generation range of 0 to 5 volts in unipolar mode and minus 5 volts to plus 5 volts in bipolar mode. It has external CV processing, which turns the selected pedal into an attenuator in unipolar mode and an attenuverter in bipolar mode. And it runs on a 9-volt external power adapter. Now, my expression pedals down here on the floor are connected to the triple espresso. And this pedal right here, right now, is plugged in to the input of the DFAM that controls the FM amount. My center pedal is modulating the VCF decay, and this pedal right here is plugged into the VCO1, which affects the frequency of the DFAM. So how does this whole thing work? Well, I'm going to give you an example right now. I'd like to thank everyone who came together and collaborated with me on making this project come to life and possible. Kevin Chang with Sonoclast, drumming friend. Tom Ferguson, Rob Caniglia with Keith McMillen Instruments and the incredible Bop Pad. Avi Ziv, Triple Espresso. Florian Baumers with the Bomb Box. Thank you, Adam Holzman, for inspiring this to begin with. And last but not least, thank you, Moog, for creating the magnificent DFAM, Drummer from Another Mother. Stay tuned right after this, a short performance example of how I incorporate this system with my acoustic drum kit. Take care, everyone. See you soon.